My name's Dan Stinton. I'm the CEO of Healthengine. Been in the role for almost 2 years to the day, actually.
Yeah, right.
Took over from Marcus Tan, who was the founder of Healthengine, or co-founder. A background in media and technology, basically.
Super cool. I thought we were going to have this conversation about backgrounds in community radio at the start before we actually hit record. Maybe we should, but we'll stick to the focus here. We're here at the Best Practice Summit. People obviously will likely be well aware of Healthengine and utilising it within their practice on a day-to-day. But tell me what you're doing here today.
Yeah, well, what I'm doing here is actually probably a little bit different to what people would typically know Healthengine for. More than happy to talk about that too, by the way. But I'll tell you, I guess, what my presentation is going to be about, and then we can go from there. So we do an annual survey now in partnership with the Australian Patients Association called the Australian Healthcare Index, and we are just about to release our 7th version of that. And it's become a really useful tool, actually, because you can sort of get a sense of how patients are feeling about the healthcare industry in general, and also specific elements, specifically as it relates to GPs for this conference, over time, and how those sentiments are changing.
Yeah, interesting. And so it is interesting looking at the history of Healthengine and where it's come from to where it is today in terms of that real focus today around patient expectations and all that. What might have been quite a transactional kind of let's book an appointment in for a thing. That's certainly an element of it. It's a much more holistic. It's interesting that you said the 7th year that you've put together this index, so it must inform where the product goes as well.
Oh, totally. I mean, obviously, everyone in our industry needs to care what patients think about the industry, and we should probably talk about some of those trends in a second. But yeah, it totally informs what we do. I mean, Healthengine started out as a healthcare marketplace, essentially, right? And its primary job was delivering patients through to GPs, essentially. But the business now is much more of a SaaS business. So, I mean, don't get me wrong, Healthengine still, healthengine.com.au and our app is still a really important part of what we do. It's still half of our business. 3.5 million Australians visited every month. More than half of those use our app. So it's a really important part of what we do. But we have invested a lot more, particularly over the last couple of years, in growing our SaaS business and providing patient engagement tools to GPs and now also dentists and physios and pharmacists and specialists. So.
Wow, interesting. And so actually we'll probably dive into a lot more detail on that. We'll do a feature episode of the podcast pretty soon I think we're recording next week. So looking forward to that. You'll have to tune in for that one. But here at the conference, you mentioned you were sharing some of the results from the index. Tell me a little bit about some of the insights that you found.
Yeah, look, I mean, the biggest takeaway, and it's been the biggest insight really for the last couple of years pretty consistently, is, and it's not a good story, is that people are unable to afford healthcare or increasingly unable to afford healthcare. And what that means in practical terms is people, more than half, get my facts straight here, about a quarter of the people surveyed are delaying a visit to their GP because they can't afford to go. So they would ordinarily go, and they are having to delay a visit. And that happens, by the way, in GPs. It's happening in dentistry. People are foregoing private health insurance. It's the cost of living squeeze is real, and it's getting worse over time.
It's interesting. I feel like it's necessary to have information that's representative of the broader community, because quite often we can get caught up in looking at, well, what is our day-to-day and how do I feel personally about healthcare? Often we can forget that something we may take for granted and be quite privileged to be able to access the broader community, the broader population. That's probably not the case.
No. I mean, look, Australia's healthcare industry and our healthcare system is still, one of the best in the world. There's no doubt about it. But obviously, as has been well documented by others, I don't need to prosecute anything here, the funding to that industry has not kept pace with what Australia has needed. And look, the single most important thing that people that were delaying care said they needed was bulk billing. And, I know there's many reasons why GPs have gone to mixed billing or stopped off from that altogether. But that is what patients are clearly calling for. They want more bulk billing in order to be able to afford to go and see their doctor. Yeah.
Well, you can't ignore the information that's there, and it's up to the ecosystem to then decide how to respond to that. So that's super interesting in itself. What can people look forward to seeing at the Healthengine booth and the team and everything happening over there? Anything exciting, lastly, in this conversation before we have a full conversation next week? What are you looking forward to showing people here at at the event?
Look, I mean, I'll give you a very quick snapshot because I think we're going to talk about this pretty soon in a bit more detail. But, the thing that we have just announced this week is we have just launched Healthengine Helen. That is our new AI receptionist. We did a whole bunch of research to inform this product. about 55% of incoming calls, 50 to 55% of incoming calls to a practice are people making, changing, or cancelling a booking. And effectively, what Helen does is it answers the phone. It's you wouldn't know you were talking to a bot. I mean, we declare it, but you wouldn't know it otherwise. It identifies the patient and it fully integrates with best practice and other PMSs, and basically just takes that load off the front desk so that the front desk can focus on the people that are in their waiting room. So that's our big announcement. But I'll tell you a lot more about that when we meet this week.
Stay tuned.